Hey, what is up guys? Alex here from atechnoclass.com, coming to you with a review of this guy. This is the MyCloud EX2 Ultra from Western Digital. This is a networked attached storage. Now what does network attached storage mean? Well, it is basically a bunch of hard drives, in this case two of them. This is a 2-bay network attached storage, and it is permanently 24/7 running, connected to your network and also to your internet, allowing you to access to all of the files inside without ever having to plug something in. And also you can use it on computers like this, the laptop, and you don't have to plug it into the laptop, which would take up another USB slot. This is kind of a handy tool for people who like to store a lot of storage. This in particular has 8 terabytes. Of course, you can buy one without the hard drives inside, which you need to buy hard drives for. Without the hard drives, it's like $150. With the 8 terabytes, it's about $430, $450. So you're paying about $150 per 4 terabyte drive inside. Inside is 2 4 terabyte Western Digital red drives designed for this kind of actual 24/7 running. So this is the MyCloud EX2 Ultra. It's basically like having one of these in every single one of your computers, even on your laptops, your tablets, and your smartphones. And because this is a MyCloud device, it also has cloud capabilities. You can access all your files via the internet anywhere you are. So this is the review of the MyCloud EX2 Ultra. This is one of the newer ones from Western Digital. The Ultra means it's faster now. It's got a 1 gigabyte RAM and a dual core processor for faster transfers and stuff like that. We're going to review this guy right now. We'll see you guys in just a bit. Alright guys, so here's what's inside the box of the MyCloud EX2 Ultra from Western Digital. As you can see, we have the actual unit itself with 2 drives already pre-installed, pre-configured. Of course, you can buy one without the discs, as I've said before. We have some quick start guide here, some warranty information. We have your gigabit Ethernet cable if you don't have one yet. We have the power adapter and different prongs for your power adapter depending on where you live. Alright, so let's quickly take a look at the design of the MyCloud EX2 Ultra. It actually looks similar to a lot of the MyCloud devices from Western Digital. They've started creating these NAS devices. However, this is the newest one, and because it's Ultra, it's one of the fastest ones they've come up for consumers. As you can see, it's like a small box, black or gray, dark gray box with some LED lights in front, with the branding in front right there. These LED lights notify you on what the actions or what the system is doing at the time. And on the back we have some information right here, some USB 3.0 slots, your Ethernet port, your gigabit Ethernet, and your DC in. Obviously this doesn't use Wi-Fi, because why would you put your stuff in Wi-Fi storage? Anyway, you can press the button right here to access the tool list drive base. All you got to do is twist this little metal plate right here to remove it, and since it's off, I can even unplug it without needing to rebuild the NAS. As you can see, as I pull it off, it reveals the 4 terabyte Western Digital drive. And we got 2 of these in this system. Obviously you can buy different variants of the MyCloud EX2 Ultra with different configurations, or without hard drives themselves. And that's how you do it with the configured version. You can see there are numbers on them already so you don't mess them up. Alright, so setting up your MyCloud EX2 Ultra is super easy. All you got to do is plug in your power and plug in your gigabit Ethernet, and it's all set up already. Everything is pre-configured for you, no problems there, and you can access all of the configuration options on your web browser. Now by default, the configuration states that both drives are actually clones of each other in a RAID 1 configuration. So basically, when you buy an 8 terabyte version of this NAS, you will get 4 terabytes in RAID 1 configuration. Also, if you want cloud, you know, it's very easy to set up. You just need to log into MyCloud and set up your NAS from there. All you need to do is like an email and something like that. After setting everything up, what I suggest you do also is map it to a network drive so your EX2 Ultra is accessible via File Explorer. Everything else, you know, configuring the drive is easy, user interface is simple, you just use a web browser, and upgrading the firmware or installing other apps are a one-click process. And that's where we go into the Plex server, because all you need to do is click a couple of buttons and now you are running the Plex media server. Alright, so let's talk briefly about how you can get the content from your NAS onto your smartphone or other smart devices. Now, first of all, you can still use your web browser to access the admin panel on the NAS, but there is also an app called MyCloud that accesses your files directly and is in a better interface. As you can see, I can check my website stuffs here. You know, if I needed some files to write something or an Editor's Choice Award right here, I can download it from the internet or via my Wi-Fi network, which I'm connected to right now. Now, this is particularly handy, especially, let's say, if you're overseas and you needed some files off your home router or your home information, and all you have is this phone or a laptop. Then you have access to the files that you have at home, which is very nice. Obviously, you can still store a bunch of other stuff like movies and other things. However, this is not particularly the best way to access these movies, as it's basically like a file system. One other thing, I have 4K videos here because I shoot 4K. Unfortunately, I don't think it does, you know, have a fast enough transfer speed, especially since gigabit Ethernet can only give us about 100 megabytes per second upload and download. And also, if you're accessing this via the internet, it will be limited by your internet speed at home. Now, what I was talking about earlier was the Plex Media Server. This is the Plex app, and you do install the Plex Media Server on the NAS. And actually, it's a very easy way to install it. You just press a button, and it installs whatever kind of apps that you want. As you can see, Plex Media Server already sort of aggregates your movies as long as you designate them as movies. And it even figures out what kind of information that movie has, the ratings, the information about what kind of movie it is and stuff like that, and you can play them in RAW. Unfortunately, this server does not transcode. It's only a dual-core Marvell processor, so whatever sort of format your files are in on the NAS is the format that the Plex Media Server will serve you, even though it says, you know, it will try to transcode it if it can. It can't. You know, that's limited to more powerful NAS servers with more powerful transcoding processors. However, if you're just watching movies at 1080p, for example, you can easily stream it from your NAS to your Wi-Fi device. And of course, if you have better internet at home, you can even stream it remotely via the internet. Alright, so it wouldn't be a storage review if we didn't do some scientific testing stuff. So here's our infrared thermometer, and just gonna blast this guy and see what the temperatures are on this side. 32 degrees in front here, we're getting 33. On top, we are getting 37, 35. I'm sure it's because of the grading, we're not getting the exact amount. On the back here, we're getting, let's see, USB ports are 34, LAN port is about 36. And that's about it for the external temperatures. Now the hard drives themselves, we saw on the interface, they're running at about 43 degrees, and actually we did pop them out, hot swap, hot remove them, and got about, I believe 43, exactly 43 right here, even just plugged in. And the CPU, we did a CPU thermal test. We got about 36 as well. Keep in mind this has a fan, which we'll try to show you how loud it is if we can. So I'll just put my little decibel meter right there. Alright, so we're getting about an average of, I'd say, 30 decibels, which is considered a quiet library audio. something like a really, low fan. That's not bad at all. Pretty good. Alright, so lastly, what we need to talk about here is the performance of the speed of the Western Digital NAS itself. Now, I did mention before that because this is just using gigabit Ethernet, our limits on speed is actually 100 megabytes per second. Now, Ethernet is designed for, internet transmission, and in internet parlance, 100 megabytes per second is very fast. But in hard drive parlance, that's actually not super fast because SSDs can go up to 600 MB per second. Now, the hard drives, the Western Digital Red hard drives themselves in a actual PC can give you about 100, I believe 60, 140 megabytes per second read-write, but in the NAS themselves, through the gigabit Ethernet, obviously the bottleneck here is the gigabit Ethernet port, and we can get about 110 megabytes per second read or write maximum speeds. Like I said, that kind of speed is a limitation of the network, not the hard drives or the NAS. Now, you may get better performance if, for example, Western Digital upgrades this kind of thing into 10 gigabit Ethernet connections. However, keep in mind that the drives are maxed out at about 130, 140 megabytes per second. So the bottleneck here that the Ethernet provides is just a little bit lower than the actual drives themselves. So I think that works out. Now, up to this point, I haven't talked about other competing network attached storage solutions because none of them are this accessible to the public or consumers, in my opinion. The other network attached storage solutions use open source software or Syncology or stuff like that, and they require a lot more setup and a lot more, know-how about networking and stuff like that. They're not as pre-configured or easy to do, easy to use, and easy to build as the Western Digital MyCloud. However, Western Digital's software is a little bit more limited compared to more open software out there with more apps and stuff like that. Now, keep in mind this does have apps of its own like Plex, WordPress, PHPBB, and stuff like that. And for a lot of consumers, I think that's enough, or even more than enough for a lot of consumers, particularly because all they want is a file server with maybe Plex Media, delivery and stuff like that. So it's not too much of a loss if you're an entry level to intermediate NAS user. Alright, so let's wrap up this review of the Western Digital MyCloud EX2 Ultra with our pros and cons. Now, the number one pro is that it's easy to set up. The software even has one-click buttons to do complex actions like updating your firmware or installing third-party apps. Number two is that it brings complex NAS solutions and cloud capabilities to a wider audience. Now, typically, that kind of thing is hard to set up, but this is just a one-click, simple to install solution, and now you have cloud that you don't even have to pay for month by month. Now, the third thing is it's good price. The diskless variant of this is $150, and the drives inside there are about $150 each, which you also buy for $150 on their own, so you're not paying extra for that extra storage. Last pro that I would like to say, especially for consumers who want to watch movies and store all their media in there, that the Plex Media Server is such a good app for this kind of product because it makes all your media and puts them in a nice container and stuff that you can browse and watch with the family. Now, let's talk about the cons. Now, one thing that is a con for the EX2 Ultra is that it is too simple for advanced or very expert NAS users. A lot of other NAS have more apps and more configurations available. However, if you are an intermediate or entry-level consumer, that's not such a con for you. Number two is there are still consumers that still prefer the old school solution, which are typical portable hard drives. Now, they trust these solutions because they see it and they know where their files are. And these kinds of NAS solutions are, a little bit more abstract for them. However, I think this is the future, at least for large media storage, particularly if you have a large movie collection or if you're somebody like me who shoots a lot of 4K video. Alright, so it's conclusion time on the Western Digital MyCloud EX2 Ultra. And basically it's a great NAS solution for beginners up to intermediate users who want more than just keeping files in a portable hard drive like this. Now, if your storage needs are constantly growing or your data is becoming more and more important to maintain and access wherever you are, or even by multiple users wherever they may be, a NAS is one of the best solutions around, and this is one of the easiest and simplest ways to get one up and running with no fuss. For that, we give it our highly recommended award. If you're looking for storage, if you're looking for cloud, if you're looking for media server capabilities, if you have a big family who wants to share photos and don't want to transfer or lug around a portable hard drive, or somebody who travels abroad and want to have their files available to them whenever they're traveling, and sometimes you don't travel with all of your files and by emergency you need some, this is a great solution. Anyway, that's it for our review. Alex from technoclass.com here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.